Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Ben Gonzalez with TDI's Communications Office, and thanks for joining us today for our webinar about the consumer complaint process here at TDI and what we ask from you to keep that process moving along as efficiently as possible. So we're going to have a short presentation first to give you all the overview of how the process works, and then we'll come back here for some live Q&A. If you are planning to earn TDI CE credit today, you do have to stay for the whole hour, both the presentation and the Q&A session. All right, let's get started with our presentation and we'll see you back here shortly.
Hi, I'm Matt White. I'm the manager of the Property and Casualty Complaints Resolution Team, part of the Consumer Protection area of the Texas Department of Insurance.
And I'm Teresa Luna. I manage the Life Accident and Health Complaints Team here at Texas Department of Insurance.
And we'd like to welcome you to this webinar covering complaints. In order to really understand how the complaint process works and how we work with our consumer complaints here, we need to understand what the Texas Department of Insurance does and what our mission is. If you look at it, the bottom line up front is the Texas Department of Insurance mission is to protect insurance consumers by regulating the insurance industry fairly and diligently, promoting a stable and competitive market, and providing information that makes a difference. And I'd really like to hone in on that last point here. The information that we provide, it can range from bulletins, web information, and these webinars we give and podcasts. These are all designed to give consumers and citizens of Texas a better idea of what we do, who we are as an agency, and how we can help them resolve issues, get information. We're really here to be a one-stop shop for consumers to get smarter on insurance and get help. Within the Texas Department of Insurance here, we're going to be really focusing on the Consumer Operations Department here. Customer Operations is headed up by Randall Evans. He's our Deputy Commissioner, and he oversees 3 distinct teams. So we have our Agent and Adjuster Licensing. They primarily deal with making sure that individuals who are licensed by the Texas Department of Insurance are up to date on their education, that they're updating their information, they're doing everything that they are obliged to do by statute, by regulation. In addition, we have the Contact Center and Services. That is a consumer helpline. They can help field calls when it comes to anything related to insurance, help with policies, help getting directed to the right part of the Texas Department of Insurance. Finally, we have the Consumer Protection Department here. And within Consumer Protection, we have our Complaints Resolution, we have Disaster Response and TWIO Ombudsman, and we have the Independent Dispute Resolution.
Well, the Independent Dispute Resolution, which we call IDR, is the program area who handles the process between out-of-network providers and insurance carriers regarding surprise billing. IDR was put into effect in January of 2020 to protect consumers from receiving a balance bill for services that they received from an out-of-network provider when the services were related to an emergency or when the insured was unable to select an in-network provider. This program was put into effect to alleviate those consumers having large balance bills which they couldn't pay. So it opened up a window for providers and companies to negotiate with each other to offset that billing for that insured.
All right, above that we have our Disaster Response and TWIO Ombudsman. Now, Texas is a very large state, and within that state we have multiple things that can happen at once. We could have wildfires, we could have hurricanes, we could have flooding, all on the same calendar day. And part of what we do as the Texas Department of Insurance is we assist when disasters happen. We'll have individuals go out, provide knowledge, provide assistance to Texans, especially in their time of need, prevent predatory practices, basically protect the citizens when these incidents happen. And that's a large part of what our disaster response does. We go and assist the state of Texas, especially when they declare that emergency, whether it be a state declared emergency or it is declared a FEMA emergency. We put boots on the ground, so to speak, to assist Texans. In addition, we have the TWIA, or Texas Windstorm Insurance Association ombudsman. He's sort of the touch point for getting information, relaying concerns to individuals who are involved with the Texas Windstorm Insurance Association. A fantastic resource, and one more way that we're trying to just streamline getting information and resolving concerns of citizens here. And last but certainly not least, we have complaints resolution. And that's really the heart of what we're going to be talking about today. Complaints resolution, we take concerns from citizens of Texas here, and we will try to get them answers to their questions. Within complaints resolution, we have our property and casualty complaints resolution. We also have life, accident, and health complaints resolution. And we will be getting into how we do our processes and how we answer citizens' questions here throughout this entire presentation. All right, so when it comes to the complaints resolution process here, we will absolutely fulfill our mission by resolving complaints from consumers about automobile insurance, whether it's commercial auto, private passenger auto, homeowners insurance. We also deal with life insurance, health insurance. We'll also help people when they have questions with title and other lines of insurance as well, including but definitely not limited to commercial fire. We have travel insurance. I've seen pet insurance. There's also plenty of others out there. And we will make sure that we assist anybody when it comes to any sort of insurance complaints or questions that they do have. Really, the entire staff here at the complaints resolution team, we work to ensure that consumers receive their benefits that they're entitled to under their policies, and that companies and agents are following Texas laws and rules, particularly the Texas Insurance Code and the Texas Administrative Code. Now, this whole process starts when we receive a complaint, and there's several ways that we can get those. Number one, the best, most efficient, and quite possibly fastest way would be through our complaint portal. It's an online real-time submission. You're able to communicate with the complaint resolution specialists that are handling your complaint as well. There's a messaging system on there that allows real-time communication. Prompt notifications of responses as well. It will notify you in your preferred means of communication there. Whichever email you specify, that's the one we're going to reach out to you on. This is absolutely our preferred method of submission because it is so timely, it is so rapid, and it is so streamlined. If you'll look at just below that, we have mail as well. If for whatever reason you are not able to access a computer or go to our online portal, we are capable of mailing out a complaint to you. Now, this is not preferred because it does delay case handling. We'll have to print it off, we'll have to mail it off, and by then it's been half a week since you reached out to us. By the time we get that letter back, we're looking at a good 7 to 10 days since we started, discussing a potential complaint here. It's a little less convenient as well. One of the other things that's really great about the portal is it allows you to upload documents. It allows you to upload many pages. Typically, we like to see no more than 50. But if you were to do that via mail, not only are you spending a pretty penny, but it's also not reaching us in a timely fashion as it would if you were using that portal. In addition, we have our phones. If we are unable to help you via the portal, via mail, we can also assist on the phone. This is a little bit more limited. We really do like to get complaints in the complainant's own words so we can make sure that we are doing our due diligence and looking up exactly what that person needs us to look up. Over the phone, we can absolutely do that, but we'd really like to get stuff in that person's own words. So that's why the portal and mail are preferred. And finally, if you do find yourself in downtown Austin, we are more than happy to take your complaint in person and walk you through that process. All right, so we discussed how we submit complaints. Now let's talk about how we receive them. We are continuing to encourage a more streamlined, paperless approach to getting these complaints. As you can see from our data here, just a couple of years ago, the portal made up just a little over half of how we received our complaints. Mail was a good quarter of how we received it. Fast forward to today, you can see that 9 out of 10 complaints are received via that portal, and 1 out of 10 are received either through email or mail. So we're going to continue to push for that paperless approach. We have also taken a look at reducing the ancillary equipment we use to receive complaints, primarily focusing on that portal and that mail system as well. All right, so we've talked about submitting complaints. We've talked about how we receive those complaints. Now let's talk about the process as a whole. So the complaint's received. After we get that complaint and we verify that it is in fact a valid complaint, sometimes we'll get complaints that aren't necessarily related to a Texas policy or aren't necessarily related to insurance. Sometimes we'll get warranties. Warranties aren't regulated by the Texas Department of Insurance. And as a result, we will reach out to that individual and let them know either, hey, we're not able to help you with this complaint, but here's an agency that can. Or B, we can reach out to them and say, hey, we understand you have an insurance issue. Looks like this policy was issued in another state. Here's information that can help you file with that particular state insurance agency there. Basically, we want to make sure that we give that person a good answer to their question, whether that be letting them know where to direct their complaint or telling them what their next steps should be to get the resolution that they're looking for. Now, that being said, if it is an actual valid complaint here, we will generate a letter and we will send it to the insurance company, the agent, the agency, whoever we're trying to get that good answer for that consumer. We'll inform them that, hey, we have this complaint. You have 15 days per law here to respond to us. They will get a copy of that person's complaint with what that person is looking for a little bit of resolution on. Now, within the next 15 days, one of two things should happen. We should either get a company response by day 15, or that company should request a 10-day extension. Now, when that company does request a 10-day extension, we want to see that before the 15-day window is up. That way it shows the company is actively working on it. They're looking at it. They're analyzing and saying, you know what, we need a little bit more time on this. So TDI, please grant us an extension. And we'll tack on that 10 days to the 15 days. So what we're looking at is a 25-day response time for that. So we can get that company response anywhere between, sending that letter out to 25 days, depending on if they ask for that extension or not. Within 15 days of receiving that response, our complaint specialists are going to process the documents. They're going to analyze the complaint, and they're going to look at the company response and compare it to policy, to the Texas Insurance Code, the Texas Administrative Code, determine if there are any violations, anything that may be needed to be corrected here. So our specialists will do their due diligence. They will make sure that they are giving the right answer and not necessarily the answer that people may want to hear. Part of us doing our due diligence is making sure that we are giving the right answer. And that's one of the most important aspects of our job, is we need to make sure that consumers are getting the correct answer to their issues that they're having. So after that analysis, responses are sent to the complainant, and the case is either closed or escalated. So what we mean by that is we will take the information between both the complainant and what the respondent company sends. We'll do that good analysis, and we will reach back out to the complainant and give them a rundown on what's going on, what they told us, what we found through our research and our look at all the documents we received, and then what potential next steps they might need to take. We really want to give the person a holistic answer to what their concerns and what their problems are. All told, this process takes an average between 30 and 40 days. All right, going back to response times here a little bit. Our response times have decreased dramatically due to process improvements and focus ongoing paperless. Once again, this is one of the reasons we do like to stress using that portal. It gets complaints going quicker. It gets them resolved quicker as well. If you look at fiscal year 2020, our average response time was in the neighborhood of 156 days. Fast forwarding to fiscal year 2022, we cut that down to 35, which is right in that sweet spot of the 30 to 40 day window that we talked about in regards to the complaint timeline. And a large part of this is due to our focus on moving to a more digital means of communication. Now, when it comes to complaints, there are several common issues that we often see on both the life accident and health and the property and casualty side of the house here. I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Teresa to talk a little bit about what she sees on life accident and health.
Okay, thank you, Matt. Most of the common issues in life accident and health complaints are claim handling and policyholder services. So under claim handling, denial or delay of claim payments was the highest complaint that we receive. These mostly come from providers on health claims. Occasionally we do receive complaints related to life insurance complaints where the company has delayed or denied their payment. Marketing sales was the second highest, mostly from consumers who feel the agent or plan information did not explain, or they didn't explain the benefits and coverages, or they felt that the agent misled them, thinking there were specific benefits available under the plan when there was not. The third would be prompt payment of claims. These are from providers stating the company paid the claim late, and usually they are requesting penalty payments for the late payment. And by law, they have to make a payment within a specific amount of time, or they have to deny it or audit the claim. Once we get the information from the provider and the insurance company, we go through and analyze it to make sure that all the specific information from the company is accurate. And then we determine if any penalties are available for that provider for the company being late on their payment. And then under the policyholder services, customer service was the highest number of complaints that we received. And these are typically because the call center agent at the insurance company is not as knowledgeable as the consumer expected them to be, and they're not able to get that help from that company or from the call agent with the company. And then they also have provided inaccurate information from those from the agent or from the call agent, or when they outsource to other countries. Consumers typically are upset about that. And the second most popular complaint for policyholder services is access to care. And this is usually when an insured isn't able to find a provider in their network or a facility who can't perform that type of service that they need. Mostly they'll call the insurance company, and then the customer service agent is unable to help them locate the provider. So they'll file their complaint on customer service and the access to care. There is a law that requires companies to provide access to care, and if there's not a in-network provider available in the consumer's area, then the insurance company needs to reach out and get a single case agreement with an out-of-network provider. And then we have inaccurate provider listing. This typically happens when a provider will go out of network or in network. Their network listings are not real time, and it's an assumption from the consumers that if they're going online, everything's up to date and it's real time, and that's not always the case. It takes time for processing from when a provider leaves the network or enters a network for the company to process that information. So even though it appears that the online network listing would be accurate and in real time, it's not always the case. So it's always best to make sure that that provider is in the network when you go on your visit to the doctor that same day. And then the fourth one was premiums and premium refunds. This usually occurs when an insured cancels their policy, and they're going to expect a premium refund, or they may have aged into a new age group and their premiums go up. We typically have to kind of explain what is going on, and that's when we have to rely on the company to make sure that they're explaining in detail why that consumer's premiums went up or why they're not getting a refund. We advise consumers to always check with the provider on the day of their visit. Premiums and premium refunds usually occur when the insured has experienced a rate increase or they canceled their policy and expected refunds.
With property and casualty, some of the major claim handling issues that we've been seeing as of late, and this whole slide is basically a snapshot of what we're seeing right now. One of the bigger issues that does pop up is third-party auto claims. In other words, it's a claim against somebody else's automobile insurance. Either that company's not acting fast enough, or you're not able to get any information from that driver. There's multiple reasons why somebody may file a third-party auto claim. One thing to remember with those third-party auto claims is this is someone making a complaint not against their insurance, but somebody else's insurance. Therefore, that insurance company is beholden to their policyholder. And as a result, the answers for third-party auto claims tend to have less specific information in them to protect personally identifiable information. So that is one thing to remember if you ever do file a third-party auto claim. Next, we have, especially with homeowners insurance here, prompt payment of claims. According to statute, there's certain time frames that individuals have to get their claims paid out. And when it comes to getting responses for these complaints related to prompt payment, one of the best things that a respondent can do is provide a detailed timeline of when actions happened. Providing detailed information on the time frame, the frame of events, will go a long way in getting a consumer a correct answer. Next, continuing on with homeowners insurance, we have valuation of claims and adjuster issues. Not only policyholders, but adjusters will occasionally file complaints related to how much something's valued. Particularly, like let's say, for instance, we're dealing with an issue with the house's roof. How much of that is due to just wear and tear? How much of that is due to a storm? We will get complaints related to that, and part of that is getting good detailed answers to really help paint the picture of what's going on. Moving on with specific policy issues that are also kind of popping up right now. Premium increases, both on the homeowners and on the private auto side. That is a hot button issue right now. The reason is because, things are tending to get a little bit more expensive now, inflation, and part of that goes into the cost of doing business. Now, the real question is how much of that is related to cost of doing business versus, undeclared drivers, accidents. That's why these complaints are important. We want to make sure we get that consumer the right answer, whether it's just related to the cost of business or whether there was something that happened that made their premium increase. Policy denial or cancellation. We will get complaints related to someone's policy just being denied or canceled, and we want to get to the heart of the matter and get that person an answer as to why. Whether it's inaction on payments or documentation needed, or if it's a mistake on the company's part. We've seen both, and we want to make sure we get that person the right answer. And finally, policy coverage. This goes across the spectrum here. When we're talking about auto, we're talking about rentals, we're talking about vehicle storage, associated costs. When we're looking at homeowners, if you have additional living expenses, how much of those are covered? We will get issues related to that quite frequently. So this is a good snapshot of what we're looking at on both the life, accident, and health and the property and casualty complaints teams right now.
On this slide, we're going to share some actual consumer concerns from life, accident, health complaints that we've received. It kind of goes in line with the previous slide as well on the common issues. So the first one, when I try to reach them by phone, I have to hold for 1 to 3 hours to get through to a person. At times, companies do experience long delays. Typically, this happens when there's a new policy enacted, or they sold a new plan, they're a new company, or they've outsourced and they're using a third-party vendor. So we do contact the company and have them kind of explain to us what has occurred so we can advise that consumer and help them out. Payment of the annuity funds due as soon as possible, and a written apology from the CEO of the company. This is in no way one of America's World War II veterans or anyone else should be treated. We do get complaints commonly because of the customer service that the consumer has received from the company, and we do respect and want to make sure that all of our consumers are treated fairly and accurately. The third one, I paid $8,000 to the IRS last year because he did not advise me that we were taking funds out of a tax-sheltered account to invest in an account he promised would return 10% to my new investment with them. Only found out the $8,000 liability when filing taxes in April in 2021. This is 6 months past doing business. This would be categorized under that misrepresentation from an agent, and we do look closely into these types of issues because they could be misleading consumers and violating the law. So when that occurs, we do look closely into these and make sure that we take any action necessary to make sure that that agent is not intentionally misrepresenting and it doesn't occur in the future to anybody else as well. And then lastly, an appeal was sent with an appropriate documentation. However, the charges still are denied. This occasionally happens more than we like it to, but there are appeal processes with every policy. It can be up to 2 appeals internal on the policy and then 1 as an external review if it was deemed that the services were not medically necessary. TDI doesn't have any authority to decide when it comes to medical necessity, so it is dependent on that third-party review or that external review to make that determination. And once they've made that determination, it is the final determination.
Some actual consumer concerns on the property and casualty complaints side that we've seen. The first 2 primarily deal with lack of communication, and that's a big one. First one, I've called the adjuster multiple times to get an update regarding the claim. All my calls have been unreturned. The second actual concern we have also vocalizes an issue with communication. We have left messages for the adjuster and supervisor and sent emails since June 2022 and have not received a response to date. The main reason these are number 1 and number 2 is because a lot of these complaints and concerns that we get could be resolved with a phone call or an email or just a touching of bases. That in and of itself would reduce quite a bit the number of complaints we get. A lot of these complaints are driven by lack of communication or shared understanding. So for the third one here, fair resolution would be for third-party insurance to pay for diminished value on my vehicle as the hit and run was not my fault. Once again, dealing with those third-party auto complaints. It's a very, very sensitive subject, mostly because you are writing someone else's insurance. It's not your own insurance, so it's not necessarily a company that you deal with on the regular, and there might be some friction there, once again related to communication. Now, looking at the fourth point here, I need my $1,000 other deductible back that I paid for. The information on claim report is not correct at all. I also need the claim paperwork updated and listed correctly, as everything on report is false other than date of loss. With this one, we're looking at someone who is concerned for a couple of reasons. Number one, they are $1,000 out of pocket. Number two, the information presented in the claim appears to be inaccurate. And this one is particularly interesting to me because there's multiple things that we need to inquire about, multiple things that we need to find out for this person. And these are all things that we will write the company and try to get good answers on. All right, so the bottom line when it comes to insurance and complaints. Number one, insurance is complicated. Working with insurance regulation is not an easy job. There's a lot of things to cross-reference, a lot of things to read through, policies, procedures, the insurance code, the administrative code. It's a lot of things to dig through. And people will get frustrated dealing with that. It's very complicated. Number two, consumers are under stress. They are not contacting us because everything is sunshine and rainbows right now. They're contacting us because they're having an issue and they need resolution on that. It's a stressful time. You're dealing with money. You're dealing with damaged property. You're dealing with people's health as well. And because of that, the consumers that reach out to us are undergoing a lot of stress. It's a very stressful time for them. Number three, people and systems make mistakes. The more things get automated, the more we remove people out of it, the more it is to get complacent and think that, automations will have everything under control. Well, if you put a 0 where a 1 should be or a 1 where a 0 should be, that can directly impact somebody through a policy cancellation, charging them $10,000 instead of $1,000. People and systems can make mistakes. You transpose letters, you send it to the wrong person, you put the wrong policy number on there. And that'll impact somebody else down the line. Customer service often seems lacking. Going back to what we talked about a little bit earlier, simply reaching out, picking up the phone, sending an email, that customer service can lead to a reduction in complaints or issues or those feelings of stress or that frustration somebody may be feeling when they're working with their insurance company. And that leads us to our final point right here. Frustration leads to complaints. Not knowing the answers, not knowing what to do, just feeling like you are just screaming at a wall will lead you to file a complaint to try to get some resolution through the Texas Department of Insurance to get you the correct answer to the problems that you're having. All right, now we'll go ahead and talk about a few samples of actual complaints that we've received and kind of explain why they're great examples and what we can glean from them. So for this first example here, this person had an excessive auto insurance premium increase. It increased by 50%. They had no claims history, excellent credit, their driving record was perfect, no change in autos or drivers covered, and they contacted the company and the company told them it was due to inflation. Their desired resolution was protection against excessive increases without justification. Well, the company responded, and within this response, it's a very good response because, number one, they give an accurate timeline of everything that happened, all their communications, the dates that policies were effective. But more importantly, they give a rundown on exactly why premiums increased. And it's not just inflation. It's, there's more complex cars being driven. Natural disasters are causing catastrophic losses across the United States. Shortage of replacement vehicles, the complexity of repairs, the cost of labor going up as well. So within this letter, they responded to their concern and really spelled out why premiums are increasing. So with this second sample issue here, this individual reached out to us because a computer glitch changed their premium from $1,284 to $19,816. Significant jump. Policy was paid in full for the $1,284 upon receipt. They received a check for $6,761. They voided the check. Agent said the matter was resolved, and then they received a demand letter for that $6,641.40. Agent wouldn't return calls. Once again, lack of communication, lack of effective customer service there. They filed a complaint with the company, and the company wasn't communicating. So their desired resolution was they wanted the matter resolved, some written acknowledgement. They wanted to know if this was reported to a collection agency as well. So that way, they can understand that, hey, if it's not going to a collection agency, it's not going to impact our credit. And if it did impact their credit, they were going to retain an attorney. Basically, the bottom line is they'd been very patient. They just needed some extra assistance to get the answers that they needed. Well, we received a response from the company, and they explained kind of the timeline, what happened. But more importantly, towards the end of it, they mentioned that they contacted an agency, they contacted the agents, and they made sure that everything got corrected. Once again, really focusing on that customer forward approach could have resolved this a lot sooner. But looking at the company's response, it appears that they put an emphasis on that after they received this complaint. They also admitted that they had some issues with their billing system, and they provided a refund check for $119.61 to this customer at the end of the day, which is, in my opinion, much better than having to pay over $6,000 for a computer glitch. So it's good to see happy endings like this for consumers.
Okay, our last sample will be on a live health complaint. On this one, the consumer contacted us, letting us know they were transported to the emergency room and admitted into an in-network hospital. Wasn't told the doctor's medical group was out of network. Called the insurer about the out-of-network balance billing that they received. The insurer paid the doctor's claim, and the insurer said that the 3 denied claims were for service at an in-network hospital, and then the company was slow to respond and only responds with under review. The insurance wanted their claims paid and coordinate with the doctor's office so that their claims would be processed at the in-network benefit amount instead of the out-of-network for that doctor. So the company responded. They did explain why they were having an experience in a delay due to staffing issues, inventory, and sometimes it takes a little longer to respond. They were in communication with the patient through a chat and also a phone call. When they finally made phone contact, they mentioned the No Surprises Act from the consumer to the consumer, and they explained that they would be checking into it. The company did reprocess the claims at the in-network benefit as they were supposed to, and the new explanation of benefits were processed and the claims were attached. The company stated that based on their review, the claims were not eligible for prompt pay as the provider was out of network, and it was not eligible for the arbitration or the surprise billing as the services were non-emergent. So, but they did turn around and pay the in-network benefit, and that's what we want to make sure that the insured is receives the benefits that they're entitled to.
All right. Now we'll round this out with a little bit of advice to some respondents. Now go ahead and make sure that you are answering the complaint. When we send a complaint, we send the person's exact words to you so you understand what their complaint is. Make sure you directly address each issue the customer has. Don't try to tap dance around the actual answer, just directly answer it. We're dealing with individuals who are concerned with getting things corrected. They're not concerned with flowery insurance language. They want to get to the bottom line up front, and they want to understand what's going on. That leads into the next point, right? Clearly and concisely. Brevity is beauty, and making sure these people get good, brief, clear, concise answers is paramount. Make sure you proofread your work. Occasionally, we've seen responses where the wrong claim number is on there, the wrong complainant information is on there. And that's a problem. We need to make sure that we're taking the time to proofread what we're sending out. Make sure you issue timelines with as much details and payments as you can to include accurate information with your response to these complaints. Work with TDI. We are here to help resolve issues that complainants are having. We are here to make sure that we're getting them the right answers, and we're here to make sure that we get those answers in a timely fashion. Make sure you keep your complaint contacts accurate as well as your method of communication, whether it be email, whether it be phone, whether it be through a secure file transfer protocol. We want to make sure we are able to reach you in the most effective manner, and that part of that is maintaining those complaint contacts. And finally, our complaint resolution by the numbers here. In fiscal year 2022, we had a pretty big year. We resolved over 18,000 complaints. We returned over $55 million, $55,798,339 to be exact, returned to consumers. And our average response time for resolution was 35 days. Once again, right in the sweet spot of that 30 to 40 day window. Finally, we have data available for everybody to consume here. It's open to anybody. It's called the Texas Open Data Portal. It's also known as the ODP. And it's the official state of Texas repository for publicly accessible open data, published by all state agencies and institutions of higher education. Within there, you can view, analyze, visualize, and export data all from one platform. It's a fantastic tool for getting any information you might need that the state of Texas has. I highly encourage you, if you do have questions or have needs to obtain data, to go to data.texas.gov. Okay, well, thank you very much for listening and watching here. We will go ahead and open the floor to some questions. Thank you very much for your time and attention.
Awesome. Really love that nod to plain language there at the end. In communications, we're always aiming for that as well. So welcome back to our Q&A portion of the webinar. Let's have our panelists turn on their cameras and mics. Here we go. Thank you. And joining us now to answer some questions is one of our presenters, Teresa Luna. Teresa is the manager of the Life, Accident, and Health Complaints Processing Team. And joining Teresa to help field questions is Marcus Wilcox. Marcus is the manager of the Independent Dispute Resolution Team here at TDI. So before we get going, I just have to pass along a couple of ground rules that we always say. Any questions about a specific company, we're not going to answer in this kind of an open forum. You can always email those to us at consumerprotection@tdi.texas.gov. And I think you'll find that in the chat, and I'll be repeating it also when we wrap up today. So please use the Q&A feature in Zoom to send your questions for this session. It's right at the bottom of the Zoom window. It says Q&A. And any questions that we don't get to during today's session, again, you can always reach out to us through email, and we'll try to get you an answer. All right, Teresa, Marcus, you ready to answer some questions?
Absolutely.
Excellent. Okay, so first up, let's see. Have you noticed an increase in the number of complaints as the use of the portal has increased?
We have not. It's just been able to allow us to process complaints a lot faster, and also to get that help to the consumers a lot quicker these days with using the portal.
Okay, excellent. Next up, another portal question. Is TDI considering any enhancements to maybe allow health plans to upload their responses and attachments to the TDI complaint portal?
The actual portal that we use for complaints coming into the agency, we have not had any upgrades on that per se, but we do have a secure file transfer process that through our SFTP that can be used for the companies to upload their responses into a secure folder. And if you want to be part of that, you can just contact me or Matt when he returns, and we can get you set up for that.
Perfect. Okay. Next up, it looks like the extension period extends the total response time to 25 days. Is that correct?
Yes. So initially you have 15 days to respond. However, you can request a 10-day extension. It does have to be in writing. And when we send the complaint over to the insurance company, there is an email address that you can submit a request for extension through that email address, or you can upload a written request to the SFTP.
Okay, thank you very much. Next up, how do you define receipt of the letter of insurance when through the use of the portal? Is it when the insurer is sent that email telling them that there's a new matter for them to look at, or is it when the insurer actually accesses the portal and retrieves the document?
Okay, I'm assuming this is talking about our SFTP process, and it will be when the document is pushed over, because we have a spot where it goes into, and then we have somebody that moves it over to the secure spot for the insurance company. And it would be when that transfer is made over. So if we transferred it to you at 3 p.m. on today, and you retrieve it tomorrow morning, we do allow for that time, because we know it's going to be after hours for you to retrieve it. So we kind of give some leeway there.
But the clock does start when we submit it then.
Correct. Mm-hmm.
Okay, sounds good. Next up, is there any way to automate the case closure notification back to the plan? There are times when we do not get a notification that the case is already closed and we're still working on it.
We used to do this, but we discontinued it because it was a manual process. At this time, we haven't considered or looked into the possibility of automating it, but we will put that on our list of things to improve our processes.
Okay, thank you very much. Next up, one about body shops. They're asking, what is TDI's position or thoughts about body shops making complaints about estimates and storage, etc.?
This one I'll let Marcus answer on the property and casualty.
Thanks, Teresa. So my beard is not as lush as Matt's, but I'll try to answer some of these questions on his behalf. So the position is that body shop is a third party. In a lot of cases, we can offer the most assistance if it's directly from the person that the first party's contract is with. So if you have an issue with the body shop and the body shop says, hey, something might not be going right with what the insurance company is doing, it'd be better for the actual policyholder to go ahead and file the complaint instead of the body shop doing it. Again, it just helps us, make sure we get the information we need from the insurance company.
Okay, thanks, Marcus. Up next, this one is talking about a home roof. It said, should we be careful with those inspectors or roof companies that offer you that zero deductible and claim to say that the insurance company is going to pay for it and not you?
Let me grab that one. All right. So this is pretty pertinent right now, obviously, what we just went through. And, as Matt said in the presentation, we've got lots of disasters that happen in the state. So to answer the question, you do have to pay your deductible. If somebody's offering to waive a deductible for you, that is illegal in the state of Texas. So that applies to roofing contractors like this example, or if it's a body shop, it is your responsibility to pay your deductible. It's part of the insurance contract, and the insurance company can actually ask for proof. So, if you say, oh yeah, so-and-so waived my deductible, they said it was okay, the insurance company is definitely going to push back on that. And also, if you tell the insurance company, yeah, the deductible was paid, they may ask for proof. So, definitely pay your deductible. If someone offers to waive the deductible, you've got some options. You can just not do business with them, or you can actually contact the Attorney General's office. They're responsible for consumer protection in Texas, so they can certainly look into that. Whenever we have a disaster situation, we see a lot of contractors come into the state. So I always tell people, just kind of, do your homework, make sure you know who you're doing business with. If you can get, referrals from friends or family members, that's great. I'm not saying everybody who comes to Texas to help people, trying to pull a scam or anything like that. I'm just saying, be leery, who you're doing business with. Don't pay everything up front. just some tips that we have out there on our website are some things that you want to follow when it comes to filing and, getting claims resolved from a property and casualty standpoint.
Yeah, that's right. Those tips were perfect. And like you said, it doesn't mean that somebody coming from out of town is running a scam, but it's just a lot more difficult to contact them if you need to get them back to make any kind of fix that's going on with the roof. So
Right.
let's move on.
I was just going to say they may already be on to the next state, right? They may be dealing with the next disaster, which makes it a little bit more challenging for you, if you have an issue that you're trying to get resolved.
Okay. Next question up. This one is pertaining to disability. Is it implied that companies should send full claim files as part of the complaint response process, or should we just define a complete complaint response as providing just the necessary documentation to satisfy whatever concern was outlined in that letter from TDI?
Sure. We actually only want the information that pertains to the complaint. We do not need the whole copy of the policy, just the pages or the section that applies. Even medical records, we typically do not need those as well, because we don't make any medical determinations. We prefer it to be less than 50 pages if you have to submit a lot. Otherwise, you can maybe submit it in 2 documents. Usually we have difficulty receiving large faxes, or not faxes, but emails.
Yeah.
So
huge documents.
And so we just need what is pertinent to the complaint. And that's for any complaint, not just disability.
Okay, sounds perfect. Another one about the auto body repair process. We mentioned about being careful about stuff. Should we also be careful with repair shops that claim after an accident that, again, I won't need to pay the deductible, and they'll figure it out with the car insurance company?
Yeah, just again, just like with contractors, auto body shops also should not be waiving deductibles. The not waiving deductibles or paying your deductible, that
Or
rule
rebating it
applies
after the fact,
right,
or whatever you want to call
yeah,
it.
because you don't know there. In some case, the contractor, the body shop may be looking to make that money back, so rebating is not legal. It's better when someone's offering to waive your deductible. You don't know exactly how that's going to look, but it is illegal. So your best bet is probably just to walk away, or find somebody else to do business with.
Now, Marcus, you mentioned that the insurance company may ask to see proof that you've paid your deductible. What do they ask for?
They can ask for a check. They can ask for a credit card statement, just anything showing that a payment was made. A lot of contractors will specifically put, if that it was your deductible payment, because sometimes they can be odd numbers, right? Your deductible can be a percentage. So it may not be a flat number, like it may not be 500 like the way it is with your car. With homes, it can be a percentage. So, a contractor generally will document that just in case the insurance company has proof. But I'm a big believer in, always look out for yourself first. So if possible, write a check, write on the memo, this is my deductible. I know that sounds kind of old fashioned or old school, whatever you want to call it in 2023. But again, it's just kind of one extra step that you're taking to protect yourself.
Okay. Just don't do it in front of me in the grocery store, please.
Right.
Writing a check. Okay. Next question up. Do you prefer kind of a narrative response of the claims handling, which then addresses the consumer's initial complaint, or do you prefer just skipping the narrative and jumping exactly to the consumer's issue that they've identified?
We do prefer the narrative. It just supports that the insurance company and the respondent has captured all of the issues. Sometimes we get complaints with multiple issues. And so we want to make sure that you're answering all of those issues, and that helps us compare the 2 documents and make sure that they're all being answered.
Okay. So go ahead and tell us the story and respond to the issues noted. Next up, when TDI responds to a member's complaint, is the member sent a copy of that response that we provided to your office?
Yes, we do attach a copy of the response. unless it is marked confidential or proprietary, then we will not send that.
Okay. Another one about responding to the consumer issues identified. If you reach a state where you feel that the carrier has not answered the consumer's questions adequately, do you write another letter back to the carrier and ask for more information, or what's the process there?
Yes, we do write back to the insurance carrier asking them additional questions. It can be back to you in a formal letter, or we can just shoot over an email to the person that responded to us that's handling that particular response. Typically, we do that because that is the fastest method of getting a response back.
Okay. And does that reset the clocks or anything? How long do we have to respond to that additional request for more detail?
Sure. We usually give about 5 to 10 days, depending on the complication or the amount of information that we're asking for. It doesn't give you the extra 10 days from the initial complaint submission. So we do try to get it back to us as soon as possible because the complaint is already aging at that time.
Okay. Yep. Each step adds time. Here's another one about auto body shops. It looks like this one's from an insurer. It says, our complaints division, we are PNC and Auto, has noticed that there's been an increase in complaints coming not from the consumer, but directly from the repair shops. Are consumer complaints the most appropriate channel for these types of concerns?
Again, I think kind of as I said earlier, I think, for us, it's easier if the insured is the one filing the complaint with us. As far as, as a business practice, you choose to respond to complaints directly from body shops. If they're, from my understanding, the way I read this question is the body shop is directly contacting the insurance company. However you respond to that, we don't regulate body shops. So, can't really speak too much of that. I mean, how you choose to respond, that is a business practice. So, as long as you're responding, not us, that's what we regulate. But again, you can also tell the body shop, hey, maybe have the insured file a complaint, or you can contact the insured directly. Again, not telling you how to run your business, but that'd be a couple of different ways you can address that.
Okay. We've only got a couple more minutes. Let's try to knock out a couple more. For property and casualty complaints, can we send a letter to the insured directly explaining our point about the complaint, or is TDI going to take care of that once they receive our response? That one's kind of a process one.
You can contact them directly yourself. However, you're still responsible to respond to TDI. The consumer is going to expect TDI to respond as well. So it's perfectly fine if you send it to them directly, but we will also communicate back to them as well.
Okay, sounds good. Just got 2 minutes. Does TDI have any public events for consumer inclusion? I don't think we have anything on the schedule right now.
I don't know.
Hold that one for later.
Well, I know, Ben, I know in, cases like this current ice storm that, we're dealing with.
Oh, that's right.
Disaster type events. We do have, a disaster response staff that goes out to various locations, and they're available there to answer questions. And Ben, I think you guys do a pretty good job of sharing that on Twitter and the various social media platforms. So we do have some outreach events like that, during times of disaster.
That's right. That's a good point. Yeah. So be sure to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, all those places. We're going to have to wrap it up there because we are out of time. I see somebody was asking, can I mention that email again? And I'm definitely going to do that. If we didn't get to your question today, or you just think of something later that you need addressed, please send them to this email that we mentioned, consumerprotection@tdi.texas.gov. Again, it's consumerprotection@tdi.texas.gov. Go ahead and spell out Texas there, and we'll get you an answer if we can. And I think that's it for today. Thanks for joining us. Have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you at the next TDI webinar.